We'll start our Board of Supervisors meeting. I need approval of tentative agenda.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All ayes. Yeah, would you read the minutes of their previous meeting?
March 17, 2025, the Board of Supervisors met as Drainage District trustees. To view the minutes from the drainage meeting, see the Drainage District minutes on the county website. Chairman Rasmussen called the regular meeting of the Wright County Board of Supervisors to order at 9:04 a.m. Members present were Cluse, Bosch, Rasmussen, Lukes, and Ellis. Motion by Cluse and seconded by Ellis to approve the tentative agenda. Motion carries. Minutes of the previous regular meeting of March 10th, 2025 were read and approved. Approved claims for payment. Motion by Cluse, seconded by Lukes to approve resolution 2025-13, establishment of Wright County Courthouse grounds use policy. By roll call vote, ayes, Cluse, Bosch, Rasmussen, Lukes, and Ellis. Nays, none. Resolution 2025-13 duly passes and reads as follows. Shelley Zabel with Community Family Resources gave an annual update and discussed multiple grants they have received. One of the learning opportunities they give is opioid usage. Supervisor Ellis suggested they work with Sandy McGrath of Wright County Public Health for use of funds from the opioid litigation grant. Zabel continued to request funding from Wright County in the amounts of $7,200 to aid in staff salaries, training, supplies, and travel. The board said they would take the request into consideration. Jeremy Abbas, Assistant to Wright County Engineer, gave an update on Secondary Roads Department and current bridge construction. Motion by Cluse, seconded by Bosch to approve the 28E agreement with Franklin County concerning the shared naturalist position. Motion carries. Motion by Ellis, seconded by Cluse to open the public hearing to vacate that portion of Youngblood Avenue between 170th Street and 160th Street. Motion carries. Interested parties present were Bob Latham, Don Latham, and Don Goldman. Bob Latham would like an inventory of all county assets within the portion to be vacated. Jeremy Abbas agreed to walk the ditch and locate any culverts. Don Goldman wanted to know if the road would be leveled. He was informed that it would not be. He then asked if the county would provide an entrance to the north. It was determined that Adam Clemens, Wright County Engineer, would have to answer that. The board then decided to table the resolution to vacate that portion of Youngblood Avenue until next Monday, March 24th, 2025, conditional to the request of an entrance at the north end. Motion by Cluse, seconded by Bosch to close the public hearing. Motion carries. Motion by Cluse and seconded by Ellis to table resolution 2025-14 to vacate a county road until Monday, March 24th, 2025. Motion carries. Motion by Lukes, seconded by Cluse to adjourn the meeting. Motion carries.
Any additions or corrections? If not, this hand approved is read. Claims have been around. Anyone from the public want to speak? Okay, take action on ongoing opioid litigation and to agree to not be included in the proposed amendment for the pharmacy benefit management.
So there was an email that came out, and Eric got it, and he sent it to all of us. And, when we had signed up for the opioid litigation, they are the attorneys through the, the coalition or through all the states and stuff like that. Keep us informed on what's going on, and we have an option to join the pharmacy benefit managers. And it is the recommendation of Eric Simonson, and he said he would be available if we wanted to talk to him as to not to join in on that part of the litigation. And so I'll make a motion to agree not to be included in the proposed amendment for the pharmacy benefit managers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all ayes. Okay, we're gonna skip down to receive fiscal year 2024 audit.
Oh, that's gonna take a while.
Yeah, Elizabeth's not here. Fired.
That goes along with number 7 at 1:30. Let's get down to Tiffin.
Tiffin,
You're up.
So You guys received that we're gonna hire at the communication center. So the gal that we're hiring, she's not a dispatcher, she doesn't have any experience, so she has public safety experience. So I think she's gonna work well with us, so she can start anytime as soon as we get her approval, pre-employment approval. So. Physical done, so.
Did you only interview one? Did you-
No, I have interviewed several, at least 10, yes.
Okay,
Yep, and she's the most qualified out of everybody.
And are you just hiring, so right now you're
Right now,
hiring
one.
one?
Yep.
You not, because I think you were talking about.
Part-time possibly, yeah,
Okay.
part-time, so,
Okay.
yep.
motion to approve the hiring of a dispatcher pending
Pre-
pre-employment,
Physical drug screen.
yeah, what do you say?
And
Yeah.
and the wage set.
Physical, oh, yes, with the wage set at,
21,
$21.
yeah, with
per
an
hour.
increase at 6 months, 50 cents at 6 months and 50 cents at 1 year.
Okay.
Wow, yeah.
And at June 30, it may get cost of living.
Correct, yep.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All ayes?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Adam,
Is there a letter that he needs to sign anything or?
So I think the first thing was, on the agenda was the resolution to vacate the road. You had questions about that, the idea of, removing the road, we're not removing the road, so the entrance will still be there for that farmer. We have a policy, he could have already put in an entrance, if he needed an entrance. So if he wishes to do so, he can come in and put an entrance in on his own accord. So, we're not going to, impede his ability to get into his field by any means with the road vacation. Now, in the future, if their landowners decide to farm to the center line of the road, he'll still half of the road, which is about 12 to 14 feet of that roadway. So be able to use it as a lane to get down to where that entrance is. So that's kind of the way we've taken this stuff in the past. If you want to change that, you can. We can do that.
So that, the answer to Mr. Goldman's question would be no, we would not put a driveway in. He would be, well, he was the tenant,
Mhm.
but as the tenant, he could ask for the landowner's permission to request to put one in, but it would be at the cost of the landowner. not
As per the
county.
policy, yeah. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So.
Thanks. We just didn't have that answer.
Yeah, understand. That's like I said, it's completely entirely up to you. If you want to change that as a aspect of, we're closing a road and this is something you want to do, that's completely up to your discretion to do so. We just have not done that in the past.
And then also, after doing some research and asking some questions on his private tile, will remain his private tile.
Right.
I believe Courtney was going to work on maybe if they wanted to work on getting the neighbors together for a mutual drain. And so we'll just have to kind of keep that in the back of our heads that that is still pending coming.
Good.
So I would like to make a motion to approve resolution to 2025-14 vacating a county road pending completion of the tile work order 7072 and a bridge removal work order 772.
And the requested asset documentation.
Okay.
So like the
And
tiles.
providing asset
Yep.
documentation
Yep.
to Don.
Yep.
I'll make them.
Second.
And any other landowner that wants to come in and request that. I mean,
any more discussion? Betty, how do you vote?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Ashley?
Aye.
Dean?
Aye.
Rick? Aye.
Rick, do you have a copy of that?
I sure do, Adam.
Could you sign that, please?
I sure will, Adam.
You get you send it to me. Well, and I've got to get it recorded, so I'll have to work through.
Paper forward.
So,
Do you, I have my
I'm
copy there
trying to
too.
record this.
she'll send it to me and,
You want this?
Yeah.
Deb will need it. Because she needs to sign
I'll
it,
leave it right in my folder.
and then she'll scan it to me. and
No, thank
we'll
you.
Get it to Baker, so. Just a quick update, Blades, full miles all across, their districts, snow response on Thursday. An intersection widening on Friday. You guys had quite an interesting snowstorm up here, last week. Wasn't available for it, so it was down where we didn't have any snow. Trucks, they were working on the Semstone project. We do have a very big pile of out and back of Eagle Grove shed, which is good, because we'll have somebody either come crush that or use it as riprap ourselves, which is great. I mean, free riprap and free roadstone is always nice. Coal patching, snow response on Wednesday and Thursday, repaired work orders, 7 this last week. I do have an update on construction, from last week. The east pier has been completed. The east abutment has been completed, so we're awaiting the bridge beams for that portion. Now, they have poured the west foundation. They'll be pouring the west stem, this week, and then maybe the cap, maybe later this week or next week. And then that crew that did the abutment on the east is now gonna go work on the west abutment and should have that completed here soon also.
Right.
So it is coming together very, very quickly. I'm guessing that they had the supplier call and say, hey, those beams are coming, and they're coming
Right,
now, so you gotta be ready for it.
right.
So they've got a little bit of work to do. Before they put the beams on, they gotta put all the riprap in, obviously underneath the bridge, so you'll start seeing that maybe in some of the updates, so. That's where we're at.
Really, on your completed projects, the special project for Nate was capture riprap, revetment?
Revetment, that's what riprap is called. Essentially, that's the actual name for it, it's called revetment. Yeah, class E normally is what we classify it as, class E revetment, so. But, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Yep.
Well, it still isn't 9:15. Any old business?
My Board of Health meeting got canceled on Wednesday, so we went to this one.
As did my, Iowa Drainage District Association meeting, that was supposed to happen in Palo Alto County, that was canceled.
I've got UGMO tomorrow night in Fort Dodge. And I've got Central Iowa Detention Friday.
I have the landfill meeting on Wednesday, which was canceled from last Wednesday.
I have Midas on Wednesday and CFR on Thursday.
It will be in recess for 2 minutes.
Okay, you're live.
Okay, we're back in session. It is 9:15. Brittany Howelson was declaring CDA to discuss upcoming events in the courtyard.
Thank you, Rick.
You're welcome.
So I turned in 3 applications to Andy using your guys' new application form that you had. The first 2 are related to festival, so we are asking for the Friday night for family fun night again. We block Main Street off, have the businesses all do games and stuff for kids. That would for sure end at 7. We're thinking about maybe doing a foam party from 7 to 8 on Main Street. We haven't committed, but that would not be in the grass. That would be
On the
on
Main
road.
Street.
Yes. Even though it doesn't damage the grass, but I
I mean, the
figured
dates for the June,
I should know.
first weekend in June,
Second, it will be
the 8th night.
the 13th and 14th. Yep.
Good, festival.
Yep, so then festival, we would like to do the kids zone on the courthouse again. We had it perimetered off last time. There will be inflatables. To my knowledge, we're not really adding anything from last year. But we were able to profit a good amount of money from selling wristbands for the kids zones. We would really appreciate having that aspect again to help fund the event. The third one is something new that we are starting. It will be 4 Mondays, one in May, June, July, and August. We are pairing with both Belmont and Eagle Grove to have a right night event instead of, we were starting to call it Mondays on Main, but we're gonna switch it to right nights. So starting on May 5th, which we are gonna do zip code day since 505 of 25. We will block Main Street off for that, and then it will be the first Monday of those 4 months. Oh, I'm not on that committee, but it looks like we are requesting from 5 to 8. And again, the actual lawn part would be kid activities. I do believe on the July 7th date, they are looking at doing a car show. We haven't committed, but if we do, we would also like approval for the parking lot. And I can keep you posted on if that is moving forward or not, and if we would need that.
So I think the issue with the bounce houses was, the killing of the grass, I think is the issue.
There was a generator on the yard that I would like to not have to be on the yard next time.
Okay.
May 5th doesn't
We
serve me.
also are not using that same
Okay.
company as last year, because that was,
Okay,
We might have to keep May 5th tentative with the yard repair. It's not very far from now.
okay,
So if you're to use the yard, it'll still be pretty muddy soon, depending on when we get some dirt and all that complete. That'd be my only concern.
and I can correlate with you on what exact things we have planned for May 5th. And you can kind of,
And the weather's gonna play a big part in that.
Yes.
can I set those up? It seems like I've seen those things set up on a street before.
we can, a few years ago, Festival in the Park had inflatables on the road. And the kid fell and broke their arm, and it was a big lawsuit, so then the city doesn't want the inflatables, and it's a whole thing, so we have ours, and that's why it's on grass.
Okay.
I know when we did,
Don't they have waivers though?
everybody finds a way around.
Yeah.
So Cultural Fest a couple years ago, we did them in the park, and we didn't notice any damage that day, so I would.
Right.
I wonder if it's. the
I think
company.
it could be the company, it could be the amount of time that it's set up, you know, if it's there for a couple hours, I would think that it wouldn't hurt the grass. But again, I'm not a turf expert.
If the heat is blowing directly on the grass, yes, it will burn
Then they,
From the
it. Oh,
generator.
it'll burn it in an hour or two.
the big dead spot in the yard.
Mhm.
We also don't have insurance liability from UA for usage. Wasn't that supposed to be part of the policy? that
Yep,
we-
just certificate of
Yeah,
liability.
we need that. We'll need
Okay.
that.
I will have Sam or Andy. Young.
Yep, we'll need that.
So,
So
Festival in the Park, and then the first Monday, May, June, July, and August. You said that's-
But
Right now.
I would wait on the 5th of May, because like I said, depending on what they need, it might still be mud hole out there.
Okay.
That's my recommendation.
do we need to wait until they have the insurance before we can approve this? Should.
Probably.
Do it pending.
Is it on the agenda for consider
It
or?
is not on there for consider,
Just discuss.
just discuss.
So all they're doing is submitting the application to Andy, and then Andy will fill out that application once he's gone over everything to you guys.
This is first I've seen it, so.
Yeah.
I didn't know, since
Yep.
typically we haven't done this before, I
Yep,
don't know if
yep.
you guys needed it or he
In the
needed it.
future, if you could meet with me first, that'd be great.
Perfect.
Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Brittany.
I will get insurance over and I will cross-check with what company we're using for inflatables. What's nice is this year now we have the electrical, so, that should help.
Shouldn't
with
need generation.
Should eliminate the generator.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so, that's good. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you, Andy.
Drop it, we'll redo it.
Yep.
Andy, you dropped your pen.
Thanks.
Yeah, since our party isn't here yet, we will be in recess till she gets here.
9:30.
Oh, sorry. We'll be in recess for 8 minutes.
The
Yeah,
special appraiser
right.
fund again, but
Okay, you're live.
Okay, we're back in session. Elizabeth Taylor, Gardner and Company, present fiscal year 2024 audit.
Higher.
Sorry,
You're right. Morning. Okay. We're gonna present the audit for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2024. So I guess you guys all have your audit books. Okay, so we'll just kind of go through it and, you know, hit the highlights. I know we've got a couple of newbies, so, you know, just for your purposes, the purpose of a financial statement audit is to opine on whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented. A common misconception is that the audit is done to find fraud or to find errors or irregularities, but the purpose of the audit is really to opine on whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented. Doesn't have anything to do with, you know, finding fraud or finding errors. It is required by Chapter 11 of the Code of Iowa that the county does go through these audit procedures every year. The audit is based on tests and samples. We don't look at every single transaction that goes through the county. So if we just go ahead and if you want to open up to page 2, which is on Gardner and Company letterhead. And this is the independent auditor's report for Wright County for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2024. And right at the top, we go straight to the opinion. And for this fiscal year, we have issued an unmodified opinion on your financial statements, which is what you want to hear. It means that we do believe that the financial statements contained in this annual report are fairly presented. And again, audit reports based on tests and samples. Also something to note, the county actually does present 3 separate sets of financial statements. Because the county budgets on a cash basis, we have a budget to actual comparison that's included. And then you're also required to report on the modified accrual basis of accounting, which is also known as a GAAP report that gets submitted to Department of Management, and that shows the 60-day accrual. So it does include accounts receivable and accounts payable, but it does not include capital assets and long-term debt. But then the county also does present that 3rd set of financial statements, which is on the full accrual basis of accounting. So that is most similar to what you would see in the private sector. So that set of financial statements also shows your capital assets and your long-term liabilities. So again, we're opining on all of those. You know, audit is based on tests and samples. Ultimately, the county is responsible for the financial statements and their presentation and the preparation as such. Our auditor's responsibilities are outlined on page 3. And we go ahead and we provide reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are fairly presented. This is not absolute assurance, it's just reasonable assurance, because again, based on tests and samples. We also look at your required supplementary information and supplementary information. So that information is posted on page 4. Once we get to page 6, we start with the management's discussion and analysis. And the following pages go ahead and give the financial highlights. They talk about what all is included in this annual report. There's some comparative financial information comparing fiscal 23 with fiscal 24. Also some highlights about the budget. Also some highlights about what you did for capital assets during the year and the related debt administration. Have some information about that. And then also on page 13, there's a chance for the county to talk about, you know, what the mindset was as we were budgeting into fiscal 2025. The actual financial statements then start on page 14. And the first set of financial statements we have is the full accrual. So on page 14 and 15 is the statement of net position, which is like the balance sheet you would see in the private sector. And then page 16, the statement of activities is comparable to what you would see for an income statement. So on page 16, we're looking at that. The change in net position for Wright County this year was a little over $5 million. A lot of that, about $2 million worth of that is related to the activity that happened in your farm to market fund down at the DOT. So there was a little over $2 million worth of infrastructure that was added to Wright County's capital asset. Those activities was going down through, you know, with that farm to market fund. The county also continued to spend American Rescue Plan Act funding, and that's presented as well. Exhibit C and Exhibit E are the modified accrual financial statements. And again, this reflects what was presented to the Department of Management in the GAAP report. We present the general, rural services, secondary roads, debt service, and capital projects as major funds. And then the rest of the county's funds are aggregated and presented in that non-major column. So the rest of your budgetary funds plus your drainage
And those are all individually listed in Schedules 1 and Schedules 2 in the back of this, but for this report presentation, they are aggregated, presented as non-major, so. But you will, like I said, be able to see the detail of those smaller funds in Schedules 1 and 2 in the back. Exhibit D and Exhibit F are the reconciliations, and that will actually step you through how you actually get from the modified accrual to the full accrual basis of financial statements. So then you can actually see, what entries were made to get from one to the other. Starting on page 26, we have the proprietary fund financial statements. So this would be your agribusiness park water supply, which is an enterprise fund, and then also your health insurance fund, which is an internal service fund. So we have a statement of net position, a statement of changes, and a statement of cash flows for those. And then Exhibit J and Exhibit K, the county acts in a fiduciary capacity for several funds, including your assessor, your, emergency management, the cities, the townships, the schools, where you're collecting tax and remitting. So, again, this is the aggregate for those funds. The detail is presented in Schedules 3 and Schedules 4, which is in the back of this report. So, Exhibit J is just a snapshot of the balance sheet of those particular funds at June 30th. And then Exhibit K is just a summary of the additions and deductions that went through those funds during the fiscal year. So then that gets us to the notes for the financial statements. And those go through until page 63. So unless there's a specific question or comment or concern about those, we're going to skip through them, including, it includes a lot of accounting vocabulary. Again, it talks about the different sets of financial statements that are presented. It gives the amortization schedules for the county's debt. It provides information about your health insurance and about your general liability insurance. We did not have to implement any new governmental accounting standards board statement this year. Normally there's a blurb about that at the end, but luckily you guys did not have to implement any new accounting standards this year, so we don't have anything to disclose that way. So then the next place I'd like to stop then is on page 64. And this is the budgetary comparison schedule of receipts, disbursements, and changes in balances. So this is where the county is presenting the original budget and also the final amended budget. And then we show the receipts and the disbursements. So we start with the actual column, and that's all the governmental funds, all the cash that's come in and all the cash that's flown out of the county during the year. The column that's titled less funds not required to be budgeted is your drainage, because you're not required to budget for your drainage activity. So we go ahead and we pull that out to get to the net. And then we go ahead and we compare the net cash in and cash out to what the final budgeted amounts were. And we go ahead and look at the variances. And at the end of the year, we did not have any disbursements that had exceeded the amounts budgeted. We did have a couple of things during the course of the year where the expenditures were greater than what had been budgeted, but amendments were made. So by the end of the year, everything was square. Also, there are some significant variances there. If you're looking at the variances between the budgets and the actual, all of those were well explained. Nothing threw a red flag. Projects never seem to progress the way you think they're going to. Grant dollars sometimes are slow to be received from the state. So even though there are some significant variances there, everything was able to be explained by county personnel. So again, no red flags there. The following pages then are some more required supplementary information about the budget, and then also about the GASB 68 IPERS disclosures. We're required to present 10 years of what the proportionate share of the county's net pension liability is for the IPERS disclosure. We're also required to present 10 years of information about what the county's contributions have been to IPERS. And then the related actuarial information with that. Also, we have to go ahead and present other post-employment benefit liability. That's on page 72 and 73. We're up to a 7-year schedule. This standard was implemented 7 years ago. This will ultimately become a 10-year schedule as well. So as we go forward, we'll add 3 more years of information. Starting then on page 75, we have the combining balance sheet for the non-major funds. So the funds that are presented as non-major in the front of the book, this is their chance to shine, and you have the detail then for those smaller funds in Schedules 1 and Schedules 2. And then Schedule 3 and 4 is the same for your custodial funds. Schedule 5 then, which is on page 83 and 84, gives you 10 years of information on the schedule of revenues by source and expenditures by function. So again, that's what's included for extra analytical analysis. And then on page 85, we have the independent auditors report on internal control over financial reporting and non-compliance and other matters. And in addition to opining on whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented, we do some internal control test work and some Code of Iowa compliance test work. The state auditor's office does provide us with a code compliance guide every year. They give us certain code sections that they want us to test your compliance for every year. The budget's a big factor with that. Making sure the notices are published the way they're supposed to. You're holding your public hearings. You're going ahead and appropriating your budget by department properly. Some of those things we look at every year. Some things they include in the compliance supplement, maybe every other year, every 3 years, every 5 years. Some are kind of on a rotating basis, and sometimes they throw in something just for fun to liven it up a little bit. So, again, based on tests and samples, and our findings are based on the results of our test work. So, there could be something that you have to do 12 times a year, and if you do it right 11 times and you screw it up once, and that one time is when we pick to test, that triggers a finding. With the internal control, we do ask the elected officials and department heads to do an internal control questionnaire that they get to fill out. That's usually the highlight of the audit, I think, right? But it just kind of gives us an idea, where the internal control can be improved, segregation duties and that type of thing. So then that leads us into the findings. Then we'll start on page 87. And the first finding we have is segregation of duties. It's an old friend. It's always going to be in this report. This finding is in every single audit report that we issue for local municipalities. And it's just because you don't have enough staff to entirely segregate the record keeping in the custody of the cash. So it's possible a transaction can be handled by the same employee from beginning to end. So because there is that chance, this finding is in there. Again, we have the elected officials and department heads fill out that internal control questionnaire. So, I think that the county has good segregation of duties and internal controls in place. The board is involved with the claims process and, reviewing and approving those claims. And I reiterate every board meeting and council meeting I go to how important it is to actually look at the claims. We've had so many cases of fraud and embezzlement, statewide, where it could be prevented by just taking a look at those claims and making sure that mileage reimbursements are appropriate, that meals are being reimbursed properly. There's good public purpose for all the expenditures. So, but again, because the board is part of that process, that's a good internal control to have in place. The second finding we have is in regards to preparation of full disclosure financial statements. Wright County does not have a CPA on staff that prepares the GAAP report for the Department of Management, and then also the full accrual financial statements and all of the related disclosures that are included in this book. So because we assist with that process, I'm required to put this finding. But again, it's in 98% of the audit reports that we issue during the year. So it's pretty common for Iowa governments. The third finding on page 88 is in regards to financial reporting. And during the course of the audit, we did have a material receipt that had been incorrectly classified as proceeds from sale of capital assets. And then we also had material amounts of opioid settlement, accounts receivable and deferred inflows that hadn't been recorded. But again, we proposed adjusting journal entries which were made by the county so that these transactions were properly included. Now, both of these things are kind of unique. With the opioid settlement, they had several opioid settlements that were settled during fiscal 24. The information was not necessarily made readily available. Now the state auditor's office has spreadsheets out there that details out the total settlements for the Walmart, for the Walgreens, for the CVS, everything that did get settled during that fiscal 24. There's actually spreadsheets out there to track the payments, so that way you know what to expect, because you're going to be receiving these payments for the next 16 or 17 years. So, so hopefully that one will be resolved. We did prepare a spreadsheet and provide that to the auditor's office so that you guys could go ahead and track that as you receive those funds. And then with the material receipt about the proceeds of, from sale of capital assets, when the county is selling assets, if it is an asset that is listed for financial reporting purposes, then you sell it and receive proceeds, then it becomes proceeds from sales of capital assets. But not all the assets that you sell meet the thresholds for being reported as a capital asset. So if you sell some of those smaller things like desks and chairs and computers and that type of thing, that is not included on the capital asset listing, when you receive those proceeds, they become miscellaneous revenue because they never really were a capital asset per se. Okay. So then on page 89, we have the findings related to required statutory reporting, and this is the Code of Iowa compliance test work. Disbursements during the year exceeded the amounts budgeted in the non-program and capital projects function. But again, amendments were made, so by the end of the year, everything was in line as it should be. And then also we had two departments that had disbursements that exceeded the amounts appropriated, and that was the district court and the general services department. So we do have those disclosed. With the questionable expenditures at the bottom of page 89, during our test work, we did not identify any expenditures that we considered to be questionable. That doesn't mean that there weren't any. It just means, again, our audit is based on tests and samples. So the disbursements that we selected for testing all had a public purpose. And the auditor's office does a really good job of keeping an eye on those disbursements and flagging them. So if there is something that looks questionable, it's presented to you as the supervisors, and then you have the option, to pay or not to pay. So you don't have to commend the auditor's office for that, because you guys really did a good job with keeping an eye on that. On page 90, we have the business transactions. The Code of Iowa identifies $6,000 as the threshold for a potential conflict of interest for doing business with related parties. But there are, ways to go ahead, with small town Iowa, you want to be able to support your local businesses. And so if you don't participate in the acquisition of services, if the related party doesn't participate, that's one way to still do business with those related parties. So for this year, we only had the one that has the expenditures over $6,000. But Rick didn't participate in the acquisition of the services, so therefore this just becomes a transparency disclosure. There's no finding associated with it at all. On the last page, then page 91, we did have an instance in the deposits investments where the deposits in the Greenbelt Bank and Trust were in excess of the depository resolution limits during the year. And so the recommendation had been to adopt the new depository resolution, and I think that's already done.
Yes.
Yep, so that's already corrected. We won't have that. That's already resolved. And that's the end of what we had for, the statutory findings. We did also have an issue with drainage ledgers being out of balance. That was a solutions issue, and it sounds like that is now resolved. Courtney told me this morning that is resolved, so very happy to hear that. It's been difficult working with solutions as of late. All the counties that we audit and deal with have kind of had the same issues with, getting problems resolved. So, you guys have any questions or concerns, or I know this is new for a couple of you, so.
How long does this take you to do all this?
A long
I was gonna
time.
say.
A long time. Yeah, we are on site, usually a week and a half, and then there's a lot of work that we can do that we don't have to be here.
Yeah,
I live in Osage, so it's an overnighter for me, so I just assume be here to do what I need to do, and then, usually we're here in the summer, a couple of days usually, in the fall, a couple of days for the gap report, and then a good week plus to do the audit, and then once we get back, we go through pull it all together and review all the work papers and.
And then email back and forth.
Email back and forth, yep.
Thank you for all that you've done. You're really good to work with and very knowledgeable.
Thank you. Well,
Very
I
knowledgeable.
want to say that, you guys have an awesome staff here too. The auditor's office is ready to go for us. The treasurer's office, assessor, everybody's ready to go. So, and then, capital assets, shout out to Joan for those, because I have had so many solutions counties that have had so many issues with the solutions program with the capital asset side of things. And you guys were right on the money. We didn't have any adjustments. We didn't have anything. So that was a relief, because like I said, it's been hard going this year with the software issues. So, and she really did a great job, and normally that's.
It
the
took us
bad
24
dread.
years, but we got
I
there.
know. Normally that's something I dread, and this year it was just a breath of fresh air, so.
Well, on behalf of the auditor's office staff, we appreciate you being available, answering questions and everything, because you've been amazing to work with.
Well, thank you, thank you.
And that's good to hear that our staff is very accommodating to help you get through what you need to get
It's
through.
great. I sent out a list in July that lists out, and again, the state auditor's office doesn't necessarily have all the audit programs and compliance guides issued by then, but in July, we kind of have a base idea of what all we're gonna need, and I send it out for your departments. And I sent it to Betty, now it'll be Amanda, and, she's forwarded that on, and like I said, we walk into every single department and they hand us a box with their information, so it's not like that every place. So we really appreciate the prep work that all the departments go to be ready.
That's
for
great
us.
to hear.
Especially since, like I said, we're overnight when we're here, so, we like to get in and out as efficiently as possible and still have a good effective audit, so we really appreciate the work. Yep, there is a spreadsheet, for the opioid settlement, and again, that was driven off the information provided on the state auditor's office. So back in October, when we were here to do gap report work, that's when we compiled all that, and so I believe I shared that with both you and Amanda, Betty, so
Yeah.
that way you both have it.
And I thought it was pretty updated,
Yep.
after October. That was really-
No, I do not, but Amanda does, I believe.
Yeah.
For-
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me come and visit this morning.
You bet. Okay, we'll move on to number 8, receive fiscal year 2024 audit prepared by Gardner and Company.
Motion to receive.
Second that.
All in favor? All ayes. Anything else before the board?
I went to Des Moines are you on old business, new business, and update on meetings?
Yeah, we've done most of all that.
Well, anyway, Tuesday went to Des Moines and, talked to Mark Thompson for quite a while. And then, also,
Concerning.
just all topics in general, nothing really specific. Talked a little bit about property tax, talked a little bit about, the school stuff, but it doesn't really affect the county that much. Of course, it was the carbon pipeline that was their day in the Capitol. The no to the pipeline, and talked to many other people there for that. I believe it was stated there was maybe like 150 people. I don't know. They were so scattered in and out and on the different floors, so it was hard to tell. But it was a good, respectful group of people, I felt. The mental health advocate news topic was the mental health advocate, and there was a form that ISAC had sent out and that they wanted us to sign for release of information that advocates were placing into the CSN. And Eric Simonson, county attorney, he did send an email back and stated that he'd been working with Humboldt County attorney. And then at this time, neither of them feel comfortable in moving forward and signing the release and would like to still get some more information. So we're just going to not sign at this time.
And that's because we don't actually hold that information. It is entered into a state system and we are not the keepers of it, is my understanding.
Yes. And also we are not the fiscal agent. We have a 28E agreement with Humboldt County. They are the fiscal agent of the mental health advocate, and that, they pretty much have
Should run that
through the
program.
county, yes. So, and then, of course, my meeting with Annette Sweeney, on the property tax legislation, which we talked about earlier, so that was my my week.
Thank you.
So I think it's tomorrow, they're having a meeting in Belmont about that sidewalk on Highway 69.
Correct.
Does anybody have any concerns or anything if I would attend that meeting to,
No,
I think it's from Third Street South to Third Street North, so it'll be 6 blocks, both sides of Highway 69.
correct. I did, some kind of a survey concerning that, where you could give input on if you had any concerns. And I was in favor of it. So,
Nothing else before the board? Then we will, not till 10:30.
Yeah, they will adjourn as.
We'll adjourn as supervisor. If somebody would like to make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
aye.
All ayes, and we will start at 10:30 as drainage trustees.
Say it again.
Come in, Wright County.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Good.
I'm sorry. Where'd it go? Uh-oh.
As drainage trustees, we will open this meeting up with Hamilton County. And A, we will review and take action on 2025 joint drainage assessments.
Yeah, I believe that we're the lead on this. So I'll call a meeting to order and approve the minutes of the February 25th of 2025. Is there a motion for that, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the previous minutes.
I'll second it.
And a motion and a second here in Hamilton County. All those in favor, aye.
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 All ayes in Hamilton County. How about right?
This is for the February minute. Did you have minutes?
It was just a
No.
No.
Hamilton County meeting. It
Is there
wasn't.
anything
Oh,
on?
I'm sorry. That was just our meeting on that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, I missed that memo. So we'll go ahead with the drainage assessments with our joint with Wright County. The first one is 9961 Reed Joint Right Control. And then 144-79 Hunter Joint with Hamilton County Control. And so question, comments on that, on either of those claims?
A motion from Cluse, Wright County to approve the joint drainage district assessments for 2025.
Okay. Second.
I'll second it.
Second, Clausen here in Hamilton County. All those in favor, aye.
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 In Wright County,
Aye.
aye, all ayes. We want to sign
And
that.
a motion on the 144-79 Hunter Joint Hamilton County Control.
You already did that one, didn't you?
We did
Both of them
Did I
together.
both by one?
Yep.
Okay, so if you guys would, if you would, we talked about a memorandum of understanding between us. And so we have one here for your consideration if you want to. So this is
This is it.
15,000. Anything over 15,000, we would have to have a meeting. I know you guys have done some for 10 or 15, so any thoughts, questions, comments?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so a motion to approve that memorandum of understanding.
So moved, Cluse, Wright County.
Okay, so to clarify, this is for a $15,000 limit on a joint
Memorandum of understanding.
MOU. And so we got a motion and a second.
I'll second it.
Second, Clausen. All those in favor, aye.
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 Aye, all Wright counties, all ayes.
All ayes here. Anything else for you guys? You want to have like a public hearing on maximum levies? How about one of those?
That's great.
Yeah, let's do
Well,
that.
thanks. We just had ours.
How'd it go?
People show up and we had a bunch today, so. Okay, motion to approve, to adjourn, please.
I'll make,
Thanks, everybody.
You bet, thank you.
Eli, who seconds it? To adjourn?
did someone,
Blue's right, Connie.
Okay, Dean.
thank you.
All right, all those in favor, aye.
Bye.
All right,
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll need
Let's do adjourn and, did we, oh, we had other business, didn't we? I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay. Drainage claims none. We need approval of, or read, you wanna read the minutes from the last meeting, please?
The minutes of the last meeting of March 17th, 2025, the Wright County Board of Supervisors met in regular session as trustees of the drainage districts with the following members present: Rick Rasmussen, Dean Cluse, Lynn Lukes, Ashley Bosch, and Betty Ellis. Also present were Deb Nesheim, Deputy Auditor, and Courtney Morris, Drainage Administrator. Other interested parties were Wright County Monitor via Zoom and Robert Watts via Zoom. Motion by Rasmussen and seconded by Cluse to call the meeting to order. Motion carried. Motion by Cluse and seconded by Bosch to approve drainage claims for payment. Motion carried. Minutes of the previous meeting on March 10th, 2025 were read and approved. There were no work orders needing approval. There were no open drainage invoices needing approval. Motion by Cluse and seconded by Ellis to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried.
Any additions or corrections? If not, the stand approved as read. Review and act on drainage work orders.
We have two work orders here in front of you. The one on the right side of your pamphlet here is for Matt Lund. And this is for DD 39 lateral 1 in grant section 34. He has reported 2 blowouts. He did request Mozdam, as he has had Ryan Mozdam out there and has seen the locations. And then the second one is for Chris Chambers. And this is for Highway Drain 4 and Blaine section 14. And this is to fix a broken tile. He has no preference on a contractor. And Dean, you have the original for Matt, and Betty, you have the original for Chris.
I do. I've signed it. Did Ryan or did Matt provide any?
I have not heard anything
Any
from
pictures?
Ryan, and Matt came in last week when I was out, so I didn't speak with him. And the one for Chris was filed online.
I signed it to approve it, but do I need to take pictures? Ryan's already seen it?
No, I don't believe that. We should need pictures.
Okay.
Trying to see. Where Chris Chambers wants to add.
We need to sign this one.
Township.
Blaine.
Blaine.
Blaine 14, I believe.
Yes.
Say.
You sign that?
It's in the Hamer land,
Yeah.
so the northeast,
Yeah, northwest, northeast.
northwest of the northeast. Yeah, you're right.
West.
Of the northeast.
So fast.
Even better yet.
This is the first one I'm getting to sign. Is there a special place you want me to sign?
Oops, anywhere on there.
You need to sign it. Okay.
approve the out. I don't need a motion. I just-
Okay, yes, this one's please. Send out.
No invoices. So I have nothing else, and just need an adjournment. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Ah.
Aye.
All ayes. Here. Put it with my deal, so everything's right. Thank you.